Jai Jinendra, hi, hello everyone. I'm the Minimalist Reader and I welcome you back to my YouTube channel where we talk about reading, writing, authors, literature, and a whole lot about books. I am here today with my first book review on this channel, and the book that we are going to be talking about is a very popular retelling of one of India's immemorial ancient epics. The literature in itself is an enormous tale. It consists a lot of smaller plots and stories. I'm sure you must have heard some part or the other, and even if you have not, I can give you my word that this book will give you a pretty good idea of the tale. The book that I'm going to talk about today is none other than The Palace of Illusions by Chitra Banerjee Devakaruni. I recently borrowed this book from a friend and I picked it up because I like to read Indian literature and I want to read more books based in an Indian setting or more books written by Indian authors. Only after I got into the book, I realized that I have actually read this one before, but fortunately or unfortunately, the memory is very vague and I do not really recollect what my feel was at that time. That is also a reason why I started this channel, because I really wanted to, document my reading journey and lock the memory forever. Diving right into the review, Chitra Banerjee grew up in India listening to the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata from her grandfather. This also reminds me of my mother's experiences as a child when she, along with her siblings, used to sit in the evening dim candlelights and her father used to narrate the tale of Mahabharata to them. That is a memory she really cherishes. As kids, me and my siblings and I also heard many of these stories from my mother. That's the beauty of stories. They just this is how they pass on to the next generations. Anyway, so Chitra then moved to the US. As a grown up, she probably started thinking more about the tales that she heard as a child and felt that while there was a lot of clarity on the thought process of the lead or the main characters in these stories, there was not enough information about the perspectives and motivations of any actions the women took in these tales. And that's when she came up with the idea to retell this story, this time to not miss out on highlighting the importance of these women too. As far as the book goes, this runs into 360 pages, was first published in the year 2008. The name Palace of Illusions is inspired by one of the palaces which is housed to a very critical incident, which is also one of the contributing factors to the eventual war. And the chapters are also very smartly named after one critical element of each small story, which evolves into this beautiful tale that we are speaking about. We are already aware that this is based on the ancient Indian epic Mahabharata, believed to be narrated by sage Vyas and written by Lord Ganesha. The literature in itself is enormous and humongous, with multiple characters and so many subplots revolving around the Arya Kshetra, specifically Hastinapur, focused on the fight between the two groups of cousins, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. The author has done an amazing job of capturing all the critical elements of the story in less than 400 pages. And the way she has done it is the focus is on her main character, Panchali, the princess of Panchal and the wife of the Pandavas. The Palace of Illusions takes us through the story from Draupadi's lens, from the time of her birth till her death, and bringing us in touch with all the characters she comes in contact with during the journey. This also brings about the point that she's definitely uh, a core element and right in the center of the entire story, because while looking at the story from her perspective, one can still get a complete view of the literature. I have heard the stories of Mahabharata multiple times in the past and I've even watched the televised versions, but I still got a very new perspective this time. While typically discussing about Mahabharata, the story revolves around Hastinapur, the Kauravas, and the Pandavas. While reading this book is when I realized that there is a lot of action around King Drupad, the king of Panchal, because it's the prophecies that are made for the three of his children, Shikhandi, Draupadi and Drishtadyumna. Shikhandi in the context of Bhishma, Drishtadyumna in relation to Drona, and of course Draupadi uh, changing the history, that are very critical in the entire tale. That was an angle that I had never observed or noticed before. With the wide coverage of the entire tale, the author has also given the right amount of importance to all the characters in the story in the attempt to highlight or bring about the women's perspectives in the story. She is not in any way overshadowed the male characters. The other possibility of overshadowing any of the characters by the very charming Krishna's presence in the story also did not happen. So there is a very right balance of importance given to all the characters. The good qualities and also the flaws of each character have been written down very beautifully. The writing is very simple but strong. A major highlight for me in the book was her description of the war scenes. The way she's described some of the critical fight scenes involving Bhishma, Guru Drona, Abhimanyu, and Karna, of course, is beautiful. Despite knowing the end, I could not put down the book, and I just wanted to continue reading. It did take me to a very somber, sad mood when I completed reading. And in providing the narration of the story, she has also made sure that all the backstories relating to any wounds, curses that have been given are just put at the right place, and these backstories do not affect the flow of the main story. It's important to note that everything in this book is not as per the original Mahabharata, and of course, in writing Draupadi's perspective, the author has brought about her ideas and her thoughts of what could the motives be behind any of their actions, and that's where there were a couple of elements or ideas which didn't really click with me. Now, if you don't know anything about the Mahabharata, you may consider skipping the next few minutes of the video, because there might be some spoilers. There are two angles that she has brought about which I have not come across before. First is the Karna and Draupadi angle. Of course, Karna was at the Swayamvar, and there was a possibility of them getting married, which eventually does not happen, which may lead to either of the characters having feeling some sort of a connection, whether positive or negative, that may touch some strings and trigger some sort of a chemistry between the two characters, because they are both very strong, opinionated, upright people, and there could be some sort of connection between the two, which I believe is also one of the reasons I picked up the book the first time around, because I wanted to explore this. But now when I read it in this book, and the way it's described here seemed a little bit childish and immature. The way that is portrayed in this book is something that I didn't really connect with. Of course, I do believe that there could be a possibility of a connection or a chemistry between these two characters, but the amount of importance Draupadi is shown to give Karna's presence in her decisions, be it at the Palace of Illusions or especially after the way the Chihar and Sabha is described in the book, uh, her feelings towards him even during the war were a little unsettling. Also, towards the end, there is a scene where Karna is sharing some of his thoughts with Bhishma, and that description of Draupadi by Karna in a conversation with Bhishma, in those painful last few moments of both of them, seemed little inappropriate. Of course, the expression of the emotion was right, but I feel that could have been described a little bit better. And the second was Draupadi's feelings towards Kunti. There was a typical mother-in-law, daughter-in-law kind of a drama that was brought about in this book, which just didn't fit right. In the process of showing the women characters as very strong-headed, Kunti's perspective or Kunti's motives behind having all five of her sons getting married to Draupadi was an idea, perhaps the author's idea, that didn't sit right with me. In addition to Draupadi, the other women characters that are discussed in the story are Gandhari, Kunti, Subhadra, Uttara, Shikhandi, Amba, Bhanumati. So all in all, coverage of story top notch, coverage of characters amazingly done, writing very simple, easy to read, fast paced, masterpiece of a book highlighting all the emotions that the epic also covers. This friendship, family, sibling, honor, pride, secrets, penance, selfishness, karma, and whatnot. If you do not already know the tale of Mahabharata, you should definitely give this book a read. Of course, with the awareness that there are a few things which are different in this book compared to the original Mahabharata, and which is the case with all the multiple different writings of Mahabharata that exist. Even if you do, there is no reason to not read this book. This could have been a 5-star read for me, but just because of the two elements that I just discussed relating to Karna and Kunti, I'm going to rate this a 4.5 star.